the Matthew Boyd signing, 1 year, 10 million, and the kind of market dictates that. So Clevenger got what, 12 million for, was it 1 year for
Yep.
Clevenger? Okay, and this is a guy who's coming off issues, just as arm issues, just as well as Matthew Boyd. So, but there's something that Chris tweeted out earlier that makes a lot of sense, and that is the fact that Scott Harris has signed rehab arms in the past, and they've worked out pretty well. So you talk about what he did in San Francisco. It's pretty easy to point out that they were able to. This is the team that. I'm trying to think of the example. Here's what I have for examples here that Chris pointed out. You have Kevin Gosman, Alex Wood, Jacob Junis, Drew Smiley, Tyler Anderson. Those are all arms that Scott Harris was responsible for after coming off arm surgery. So I'll start with you, Cameron. Are we really, in terms of his ERA, and I know his walks were high, was there anything really that, are you okay with this? As long as it's a series of other moves then?
I mean, even if there's no other moves during the winter meetings, I'm fine with this. I mean, we watched 4 hours later, Zach Eflin get signed for 3 years, 40 million. And I mean, he's no better, no worse than Matt Boyd. So obviously the starting pitcher market is a lot hotter than I think us Twitter armchair execs think it is. So I mean, 10 million, I guess, was a good deal for Matt Boyd. There's other arms I would have chose at that price range, but I mean, Matt Boyd fits what we need in the pitching rotation. So
you what about you?
Well, I have to stay consistent. You know, I've had a long-term view that 1 year contracts are fine almost always. They're never going to really hurt you. They're not a setback for the team. It's worth a shot with a guy like Boyd, who is a talented pitcher. Now, he did get a little bit more money than I would have ever guessed, but it's Chris Ilitch's money. And I assume that, you know, there's enough money to cover their needs for this winter. And that's $10 million to Boyd isn't going to shut the door on some other things that they need. Hopefully that's a correct assumption. But, you know, Harris got to see Boyd during the rehab last year in San Francisco prior to the trade. Then they got, you know, was it 15 innings of sample size in Seattle? They saw him come back last year and pitch okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. We know what bad Matt Boyd is. Although, oh wait, I think he just gave up another home run. It just happened. Breaking news. No, I kid. I like Matthew Boyd. He's an okay pitcher. If things work out, he's in the back of the rotation and he gives them some innings, and that's what they're going to need. The worst case, maybe he's in the bullpen for a while, and he showed in Seattle last year he could probably do that too. So he can miss some bats. Welcome back, Matt Boyd. I'm good with it.
I mean, this is a situation here for the Tigers right now that you look at the free agent market, and you talked about Zach earlier. That was a guy that we got intel on that the Tigers were interested in. So it could be the fact that maybe the Tigers didn't want to give it a third year. I don't know. That's irresponsible speculation. I'm not going to say for sure. But
that was the biggest contract in Rays history, free agent contract.
Free agent contract. Yeah. Wow. 3 years and $40 million.
Yeah.
So it could be the case where the Tigers maybe did not give him a third year. I don't know, but it is worth just slightly more. Or it was worth just a slight more than what Tyler Anderson got from the Angels, he got 3 years and $39 million. So just a scotch, 0.3 or however that works
per year. Yeah,
per year. So he's getting a little bit up there. But hey, look at the market right now. Clayton Kershaw, there's Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, there's Jose Quintana. There's pitchers that are going to come out. And look, the Tigers allegedly have had support or showed interest in Quintana. But the rest of the market, I mean, there's of course Jameson Telion, who will probably end up signing with a big market club. You have the Jacob deGroms of the world and all that. But again, I don't see the Tigers even being remotely possibly part of that. And I'm not saying that because I'm being disparaging, but it's facts are facts. Boyd does what he's going to do. He's going to go out there, be a 4th or 5th starter, and that's it. He comes in a different role than he did before. I mean, this is something. And then Todd brings up a good point in the chat. It does bounce back. You can flip him at the trade deadline with the competent GM. They probably get something for him. What I don't understand is some of the things I saw on Twitter today is just well, you're doing Avila a favor or this and this, and something that I thought some of the reactions were kind of like, okay, like this is one move, and I don't understand where we're going to go off and say this was a terrible idea. When Matthew Boyd left, everybody was like, oh, it sucks he left. His numbers were bad. But again, this is a guy coming off surgery. And what I want to find out really, and this is something that you look at his StatCast data, very limited. His fastball spin was a little higher than it was. But again, that's a super, 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 and then some sample size. So it's like I can't really know exactly what he's throwing at. I mean, the only thing we can go to is the last day of the regular season and where he threw against Tigers. And this is I think it was October 4th, and he pitched 3 innings, struck out 5. Of course, yes, the Tigers' offense was anemic at this point. We all know that. And at that point, people were just the Tigers. Maybe I don't want to say they were milling it in, if you will, but again, this is the team that was just at this point like, all right, we're done here. But if I'm looking at the velocity here real quick, again, I just don't. We don't know. I mean, and Cameron, in terms of like for you, in terms of intel, you've seen what they've done now with the coaching staff. They've got the additional coaches. They got the additional, a whole brand new conditioning staff too. So, are you going to give them the I'm sure you're going to give those guys the benefit of the doubt.
I'm
right?
going to give them benefit of the doubt because Scott Harris signed him back in San Francisco. Obviously, Scott Harris, someone somewhere likes Matt Boyd, and Scott Harris signed him with San Francisco, and then he comes to Detroit, signs him in Detroit. Chris Fetter worked wonders with him in the short time he had in 21. Maybe they recapture that. His velocity was as high as it's ever been in his career in 21. And I guess last year in the small sample size. I don't get why everyone's getting worked up. Basically, he's going to come in, replace Tyler Alexander in the rotation. He's going to hopefully do what Drew Hutchison did last year, hopefully eat a little bit more than 110 innings. That's my only major concern, is that Boyd isn't able to throw enough innings for the $10 million to make sense, or he gets injured again. That's my only concern, and I assume that's what the performance bonuses will be, is hitting certain inning threshold. So,
yeah, that would make a lot of sense, and especially because he did pitch out of the bullpen last year, which I'll put his velocity up a little bit more. Yooper?
Well, yeah. I mean, the injury factor is real. I mean, he's obviously spent some time on the IL the last few years, and there's a good chance. I mean, there's always with any pitcher, but with him, we know there's a chance that that's a $10 million bonfire of cash if he gets hurt, and that could happen. But again, it's a 1-year deal, and really, there's a lot of good scenarios that can come out of it that equal the bad scenarios. If he could become tradable, he could become a factor. He could start a second phase of his career under Fetter. It's worth the gamble. If they would have brought in another injury-prone guy on a 1-year contract, if he wasn't named Matt Boyd, maybe a lot of the people who are really upset about this would just shrug their shoulders and say, "Okay."
Yeah, look, if they brought back Julio Teheran, then yeah, you have every right to be mad, because that didn't work out the first time. I don't think it worked out the second time, no matter who the GM is. So this is Matthew Boyd's final regular season appearance against the Tigers, and this is the numbers that kind of stand out a little bit. His average spin on his fastball, and right there, he's averaging around 92, 93, which is around I believe his career. His career is like 91, 92. But it's just an example. Again, small. Cannot emphasize the word small. Sample size. So I don't. As far as, again, this is against the Tigers too, and the Tigers were just terrible anyways. All in terms of offense. But One thing that was suggested out there on Twitter that I thought that cracked me up was like, well, what if they bring back Tucker Barnhart? If they wanted that to happen, that would have happened. And I mean, they brought back Michael Pierzynski. They did a bunch of the minor league signings, so we saw some of that. So they were bringing back some of the people from minor league sense, which makes sense. So I don't know. As far as that goes, I just think the overreaction for everything to just assume it's going to be what it was before is ridiculous. So